Hey folks, in this interview, I'm sitting down with my friend Mr. Peter Levshin. We're going to talk about his latest adventure to Papua New Guinea. This is TWIP. All right, so Peter Levshin is here to talk to me about his latest adventure over to Papua New Guinea. We're going to talk about things that all of us think about, like preparation, food, what gear to bring, what not to bring, all that good stuff. Peter, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Yeah, good morning, Frederick. Good to see you, buddy.
It is good to see you too. You are the world traveler, man. You are like the I can't. There's no word to describe what you do because you do so many things. You're like an iceberg. There's so there's a little bit above the surface, and you look below the surface. There's this huge thing of this huge body of work and this huge number of projects that you're involved in, and you're touching many photographers' lives. Tell us a little bit about what Peter Levshin does behind the scenes.
Okay, it all started basically when I moved to the United States 30 years ago. We started an advertising company, and we're doing printing, advertising, and in the subsequent years, we've done enormous amount of coffee table books. We print for a lot of photographers worldwide, entertainment industry, Mattel, Paul McCartney, on and on. So we got to see a lot of great photography from great photographers around the world. Mm-hmm. So that's the core business, is doing printing, advertising, and design. And in the last 10, 15 years, I got into more photography, and I'm blessed with the opportunity to be able to travel anywhere on the planet that I want to go and to take, imagery and photography. So hence, once or twice a year, we normally pick one or two photographers and go to the hardest place to go to take really exceptionally good photography. And it's sometimes very rewarding and very difficult and a lot of fun, and come back with some great images that people haven't seen before.
And that's what I want to talk about that a lot too. Then the idea of sparking creativity by displacing yourself and taking yourself out of your comfort zone in order to sort of stir up those creative juices. But you have a wall of books behind you. There's a wall of books. You and I were talking in the quote digital green room about those books, where they came from, and also the fact that you are a multiple award winner of some sort. Tell me about that.
Yep. All the books behind me. I'm in our company library right now, and we produce, like I said, coffee table books, entertainment work, and so on. And we do a lot of work for the entertainment industry. We've been nominated for our packaging for our clients 11 times for Grammys. We've won 3 Grammys for Paul McCartney, for Jack White, and so on. And that is the fun part of the business. But the full creative side, which I love, is starting with nothing and ending up with something. And the photography side of the business, as I said, we do things for Mick Fanning, for Lava Light Galleries. We do books for a lot of phenomenal photographers around the world. And we just like to share and hang out and have fun. And as I said, go to places that people don't normally go to because they're too difficult or they're too scary.
And that's the thing. So with that, traveling to difficult places that are too difficult, or they're difficult to get to, or scary, and you kind of put yourselves in harm's way. Like I said in the intro there, I want to talk about the preparation that goes into getting ready to go to one of those places. But before we do that, what about a lot of photographers, I think, and myself included to some degree, they have this sort of innate, maybe I'll do it next year, fear of traveling to different places, unless you're pushed out of your comfort zone. Like there's a workshop in some place. You're like, okay, well, I have to go there for that anyway, so I'll just shoot while I'm there. How do you get out of your comfort zone and say, you know what? I'm going to XYZ exotic place. I'm going to spend a week there. I'm going to shoot. How do you push yourself like that?
Well, just in the last 10, 15 years, it's so much easier because you can then do research and go online and find out what the pitfalls and what the pluses and minuses of any travel destination. And then what we normally do is we hook up with local guides, local people that can speak the language, obviously, and be very respectful of all the places that we go to, the different cultures and so on, so that we don't disturb, interrupt, or go in there, heavy-handed and disrupt them. One of the things is I try to take photos every day even if they're bad photos, but try and take photos every day of just normal things. I live down at Newport Beach, and just as I drive, as I'm at home. And the thing that I love is you have to plan and set a goal for yourself, even if it's 6 months, 5 months, 1 year ahead, and say, I'm going to do this. And if you've got a buddy that you can go with or whatever that's like-minded, that loves taking photography, then you're off you go. But you need to plan and go and do it, and don't wait for next year or the year after, because then you'll never do it. You can't procrastinate. You have to say, this is the destination I'm going to go to, work out how to get there, and just do it. Don't say, no, I can't. Anybody can do it.
I always say the hardest part is, for me, is just booking that ticket. Once you book the ticket, you know, for the most part, things are on autopilot. And then the next hardest part is like getting packed and getting on. Once you get in the Uber or the Lyft or the cab or whatever to get to the airport, the rest is autopilot. You're just like, I have to get my body to this location in order to get through security, in order to get on the plane, to get in my seat, to get off the plane, to get to my hotel, to, you know, you're kind of a leaf on the wind at that point. But how do you prepare? Or backing up a little bit, you mentioned like grabbing a buddy and taking off. What would you recommend in terms of, should photographers, when they're considering going to an exotic location, should they look for an organized workshop that's already taking place in that area? Or conversely, should they just do it themselves and like, you know, hey, I'm going to listen to Peter. I'm going to find a guide out there. I'm going to book my hotel. I'm going to do some research, and I'm going to be Indiana Jones and do it all myself. What do you think?
Yeah, the Indiana Jones thing worked in the old days, and it works in the movies, but in reality, that's crap. It doesn't work that way. What ends up happening is you'll end up on the wrong side of the location, taking the wrong pictures, and not being with the local people and the local scenery. What we do is we check on FM Forum, or we go to the different blogs, your blogs, and so on, and look, and then start talking to people that either have been there or have a little tour group or individual tours. This last trip to Papua, we needed 6 people to take us. We needed an armed security guard. We needed a translator. Actually, we needed 3 translators for the dialect and all the way to come back. We did our research on what to take, what to say, and how to act as responsible people there, and not to, you know, get in there and just totally piss them off. So we were very, very careful. But if any place that you want to research, you research carefully and just make sure that you are not stepping into a, you know, dangerous situation. Like, you know, if you go to Syria or places like that where there's, you know, there's shooting and fighting and stuff like that, we would never recommend that, because, you know, that you could lose your life in situations like that.
Well, you can find those kind of areas right here in the good old USA.
Well, it's just down the road from where I am. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. But, you know, we say that tongue in cheek, but that's true. I mean, we're going to talk a lot about New Guinea, but at the same time, you know, there are certain kind of common sense things that you should do, even when traveling anywhere outside of your neighborhood or your comfort zone, where there are different kinds of people, even within the U.S. or your whatever country you're in, if you're out of your own little geographic comfort zone. So how do you apply that? How do you prepare, you know, beyond just like Googling, you know, where are the crime statistics in this area and all that stuff? How do you prepare, and what are the common sense things you do while on the ground?
Well, how do I prepare is that you see images or you see something that you like and you go, well, where was that? And then you say, well, that's really good. That's unusual. And if there's not a lot of pictures of a destination, you say, well, that must be either a hard destination to go to, or it's really difficult, or it's expensive, or whatever. And then you have to make up the decision, you know, do I want to go take pictures of, you know, headhunters on the Hilland tribe up in Papua? Or do I want to go take pictures in Bali, sitting at the surf, taking surf pictures? Do I want to go to Costa Rica and take pictures of beautiful birds? Do I want to go to Galapagos Islands to take pictures of the animals there? It depends on what your passion is. And if you like, you know, I do a lot of photojournalism work, portrait work. If you're a nature photographer and you want to see animals, then you find out where the best animals are, or the best diving, and you just gear it that way. Then do your research, find out if anybody does tours there, find out if you can get a tour guide that can handle it and whatever for you. Get recommendations, talk to other photographers that have been or have come back, and then find out exactly what you need to do to get there, and then plan for it. And these things you can't do overnight. You just can't get on a plane today and go to Papua. You just cannot get the permits. It takes 6 to 3 months. 3 to 6 months to get permits to get in there. You have to have it all approved by the government. They're very cautious on who goes in there, on and on. But, plan it and do your homework and then work out what you need to wear and what shots you need. Like tetanus, hepatitis A, diphtheria, a whole bunch of shots before you go there, because the last thing you want to do is get sick after you've spent a fortune to get there and you don't get any images.
Oh my God. Yeah. I can't imagine. That was one of my worst fears of when I went to Vietnam. You and I talked about that. Was not that I was worried about the food or any of that stuff, but it's just, being a child of science, I know that I'm made up of mostly bacteria, and there are different bacteria over there that may not like the bacteria that I'm bringing over, vice versa.
And you got to be careful. Like in Vietnam, you got to know the road rules. You could get run over real quick.
Right.
The traffic and the people. But if you're with somebody that knows the local scene, that's what you need to do. Traveling throughout the United States, traveling through Europe, traveling to Asia, traveling to Australia, most countries, you're okay. You don't need a guide. But some of these remote places, you definitely need a translator and a guide. Otherwise, you could run into all sorts of problems that you don't want.
Yeah, because the main goal is to get out with the photos, right? You don't want to become a permanent part of the geography there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about...
thing you want,
go ahead.
Just as a quick side note, 15 years ago, I'm taking pictures in Hong Kong, and I'm taking pictures there. I'm taking a guy, cutting up some meat on the side of the road in Hong Kong. All of a sudden, he starts waving his cleaver and starts running towards me, and I'm going, oh, crap. So I start running, and, I'm not a sprinter. I got, 50-pounder gear on my back, and I'm running. I'm going, what the hell? So anyway, I finally get the pictures back, have a quick look. The guy was cutting up a dog and to eat. So that's completely illegal in Hong Kong. It happens in China. So you've got to be aware of what's happening around you. In that instance, I was lucky and got away and jumped in a taxi and just raced off. But you've just got to be careful. And when you're with a local and a translator, you have better chance of staying out of trouble.
Yeah, that's an interesting story, because that was a location that's outside of your comfort zone, so you didn't know. But you're like, I remember a couple of years ago, we did a story on This Week in Photo about these women, one of which I believe was killed just in Los Angeles. It was a tourist, and she was doing street photography, walking around taking photos of homeless people. And she took a photo of a homeless person that didn't want their photo taken, and it ended in a homicide, right? It goes across the board, right?
Yeah, you just cannot think that the rules that apply in the United States apply everywhere on the planet. Mm-hmm. It's not the case. And you have to be very, very, very aware of your surroundings, one. Secondly, be very cognizant of the people that you're taking photos. We have anybody that objects to me taking a photo, I'll delete it out and I'll say, I'm very sorry, and then walk away. 9 times out of 10, I always ask if I could take their photo, if it's fine. Engage with them, talk to them, and I'm a bit of a joker kind of a guy, and give them a couple little bits of treats and bits and pieces, and laugh with them and have fun. Give them some cigarettes or whatever. Yeah. But you've got to be really careful, because it's a fine line. It's a fine line.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Papua New Guinea. And the preparation for that. One of the things that I hear a lot, including from my own inner monologue, is that the hardest part of preparing for a trip like this is the preparation. And for me, it's like I go back to military. My military brain is like, okay, you got to bring everything. You never know what's going to happen, and you don't. So I end up with gear for every possible contingency, which is not smart. Obviously I've learned over the years, you want to bring as little as possible. How do you prepare? Like, what is the week and days leading up to you setting foot on the plane? What does that look like?
Yeah. After all the initial planning's done, the tickets are booked, everything's done and everything in place, then going through the camera equipment, what I'm going to need, and it's 2 to 3 months of misery. I put everything out on the table and just work my way through it on and on and on. And like you, I always take too much equipment and never use it all. And every other trip I say I don't need to take all that. But having said that, every time I travel, I get the feeling on the way to the airport, oh, crap, I've left something behind.
Yes.
What happens if I need this? What happens if I need that? Every time.
Yeah.
But you have to basically, I'd rather carry all that equipment with me in such a way. I have a think tank roller, and I've got the green, the backpack that you reviewed with Steve Brazel. That backpack is phenomenal. I wear that, get on the plane, carry all my equipment on board, never check anything in, obviously, because they either steal it or lose it.
Yeah.
And then just make sure that I have everything and just basically suffer through having it. I'd rather have it than not have it.
That's the Boy Scout thing. That's what we used to learn in Boy Scouts. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. But
correct.
But then there's the weight concerns. Like for me, it's like, you know, I have, you and I are probably very similar, because I'm the night before a trip, I'm thinking, well, what if I want to do some aerials? Okay, so there's the drone and everything that goes along with that. What if I want to do some 360? Okay, where's my 360 camera? And I got to make sure I have the cables to charge it. Of course, what if I want to do some wide angles? I need all these lenses. I need portrait lenses. I need batteries. I need chargers for all the batteries. It just keeps building and building and building. So, you know, the question is, once if you take off to one of these locations, even if you've done all your homework and you're you know what you're in for, you know you've done as much as you can in preparation wise, both in terms of gear and bureaucracy, you know, and medical to get in the country and, you know, be safe. If you have all that gear with you, how do you secure it? Like you're not going to be Charlie Brown backpacking with all your stuff with you the entire time. You got to leave it somewhere, right? So how do you like in a place like Papua New Guinea? Like how do you secure the stuff that you bring with you?
What I've found in all the years I've traveled is I've never ever had a problem of anything getting stolen out of a hotel room, nothing stolen out of a car. Because these people mostly are very, very honest, and they're always looking after their jobs, and they want to make sure that, you know, that you're not setting them up by leaving your camera equipment out. The biggest problem that I always face is that I've never been to this destination before, so I don't know what's involved. Now, knowing what's involved in Papua, I know what I can take and what I need and what I don't need on the second trip. But when it's a first trip, that's an issue. So most of the time I will carry my carry-on my backpack is about 22, 23 pounds. I have a wheel-on think tank that's got about 26 pounds. Now, both of those are over the carry-on limit, but if you don't look like you're dragging and you're going to fall over for too much weight, most airlines will let you on. It's the small airlines at the end of this trip that turned out to be a bit of a problem. But you can BS your way through, pay somebody some money, and you just walk on with all your gear.
I love it. I want to travel with you, man.
I need someone to carry my equipment. You can come right along.
I'd be happy to carry. Hey, we're close in age, so I don't know if I can do that.
Now, I don't do drones, but my buddy Troy Miller, who you have on your show quite a lot, he's a drone expert. He's phenomenal.
I wouldn't go that far, because Troy, his drone and a tree had an interaction that I
know.
He hasn't recovered from yet.
I mean, that happens, the trees, whatever. But he's a lot better than me. But as soon as I mentioned, let's go to Papua, and then he worked out where it was, he says, even if you pay for me to go, I'm not going.
Why? So, yeah, that's like a once in a lifetime thing. I would love to do that. Well, let's talk about that place. So we've got a couple of images I want to talk about, and you send me these images over, and I'm like literally jaw on the ground looking at these images, and that's like what I was thinking. Whenever I look at images like that from photographers like you or Trey Ratcliffe or people that travel a lot as part of their DNA, it always hits me like, these are fantastic pictures. I wish I was there to get the shot. And if I was there, would I have been able to get a shot like Peter did? So let's talk about this first shot here. The first one to talk about is this cross, this giant, looks like a giant cross on a hill. Can you tell me the story behind that?
Okay, so the destination is a town called Waimea, Wamena. And it takes 13 different plane trips to get there over 2 days. There is no roads in. Everything gets delivered by plane. Now, this is a hilltop tribes. It's a very small city, and everything comes in by air, so it's expensive. So these are primitive natives, and what happens is that all these missionary groups from around the world want to save these people because, they're naked and they're primitive, and they want to, make them religious. And a lot of them, are Catholic and Presbyterian and so on and so on. So in the early 40s, the Indonesian government, which is basically Muslim, went in and took over the place. So the locals are all Christians. So I come to Papua as a white American Christian, and they were so cooperative and they were happy to see me and just really, really fantastic treated. So downtown, there's a 200-foot cross that they're building with all the real estate around it, and it's going to be a meeting place, on and on and on. So it's kind of, how it goes.
Yeah, that is a beautiful shot. It's beautiful. I love those clouds. It feels otherworldly when I'm looking at it. It just
that's shot in infrared. They're building it and they're constructing it. They've been building it now for 5 years, and you could see it from everywhere in the valley.
Is that a building? Because I see the line on the top. Is it a physical building, or is it just a structure of a cross?
It's a structure of a cross, and they're going to build the rest of the building around the cross. It takes up maybe 2 acres of land right in downtown. And the missionaries have been there for, 40, 50, 60 years maybe. And they do a wonderful thing when it comes to, infant mortality and on and on and on. But, it comes at a price that you can't still act the way you used to as a tribe. They want you to cover up, and they want you to, not go to the next villages and get into wars and kill people and chop their heads off, which is probably a good thing.
Well, that would be a good thing. No. I'm going to step through a bunch of these images here. The next one I'm going to look at is number 9 here. Is these two gentlemen standing there. But before I get to that one, how do you manage? And we talked a little bit about this before. Going into a strange situation and the research that's involved in it. These guys look serious, right? And you are clearly not from there, right? Like, how does the white guy going into this tribe with an expensive camera and maybe a small entourage, how do you get in there, get the shots without disturbing people, and just sort of being a fly on the wall? It seems like it'd be hard to be a fly on the wall there. How do you manage that?
Okay, so there was, in our entourage, there was 2 photographers, Rodrindra Pakrasa, he's out of Java, one of the finest photographers there, and with the group of people, the translators and the security people. And what we did is, you're right, you walk into this situation and you see things that you've never seen in your life before, and it becomes total overload. Your brain starts to race, how am I going to shoot this? The lighting's bad, this is bad. These people are standing here naked with a little penis gourd on there. Well, how do I do this? So what typically I would do is, we don't do any photography for the first at least 30, 40 minutes. We walk in, we talk to the people, we sit there, we gave them some cigarettes, we gave them some first aid kits and some other things. Not that I condone smoking, but, that's what they like. And we chatted to them for a little bit through the translator. We talked about what they were hunting today, what they were doing today, what do you think of the weather's going to be. We ask them, do they know anything about the United States? And they don't know anything because they've got no TV, no electricity, no nothing. Yeah. Excuse me.
That's not fair.
So basically, we just talk to them and engage with them, and then just let them go on doing what they do, walking around, and, just take their photos. And after a while, the shock of seeing what you're looking at after 2 or 3 hours, it's just like you and I standing next to each other with clothes on in a bar having a drink. It's kind of like that. Once you see naked people, naked kids, naked everything, it is no big deal to them whatsoever.
It just becomes normalized, right? And you get acclimated. That's so interesting. That's what I want to. I've never been in that kind of situation where it's like clearly I don't want to use the word primitive, but just people of a vastly different culture than what I'm used to, and how I would behave in that. Let's talk about this next shot. These 2 gentlemen standing up, clearly posing for you. This is image 9, as we have them listed here. Tell me about the background of this image and what was going on here.
The background is, they were doing nothing. They were just standing around. That's how they just hang out. They're standing there looking at us taking photos at the other end of their compound, and they're just standing there having a cigarette, and they're just standing there. And that's what they do. They just stand around. They do hunting. They do fishing. They're the happiest people. I mean, you'd think with no TV, no car, no shoes, no electricity, no phone, they'd be unhappy. They're not. They're really happy. The kids are happy. The women are happy. Do they have conflicts? Oh, I'm sure they do, but they're really very cool, very happy. They're not lusting after the latest Nike or the latest Sony or whatever. And, they're just standing there. They hang out. Cool. They practice during the day shooting, animals and looking after the pigs and so on. But that's like you and me taking photos in San Francisco of people down at a wharf. They're just standing there, just hanging out.
These guys, I mean, they're clearly posing. Do they know that they clearly know you're taking a photo of them? So they understand. Yeah. They understand that level of technology. It's not like, what's this guy aiming at me, right? So
yeah. No, there's cars in the city. These guys are an hour and a half out of the city, up a mountain, and they live like that. It's not a Hollywood set. They actually live like that. When they go into the city, they wear nothing, the same deal. They walk into town. They don't have a car. They know you're taking their photo. They know some stuff that's going on around the world, but, nothing like what we do. But again, they're just there and look at us as photographers as their entertainment for the day. So we could hang out with them and talk with them and joke with them and have fun and look at what they're building and look at what they're making. And at the end, they tried to sell you some, handicraft and some gifts and whatever, which we bought. We bought, whatever we could from the women making, the bags and mats. But they're very accommodating. They're extremely accommodating. They don't, in the Papua side of Papua New Guinea, which is the Indonesian side, not many photographers or tourists go in there because it's extremely difficult. And they're not really tourist-oriented, and they're not you don't have hordes of buses and, tourists floating around. And I was the only white person that I saw in 5 days
Wow. And so, Peter, tell me about these penis gourds that they have on. What's the story? Yeah. Is that a religious thing or what does it mean?
It's when the boy is 5 years old, the boy then, they have a ceremony, he gets a penis gourd and they put the penis gourd over it. And what's just interesting to me is to them, it's no big deal. And I've taken photos, and I think I sent one of them to you, and there's a gentleman there with a bow and arrow standing there posing for us, and he's 93 years old, okay? And he has most of his teeth. They don't eat sugars and stuff. They eat, a lot of all natural bark and pig every now and then. But the women are naked with a little dress thing over their, the front part. But nudity is not a big deal to them like it is to us. Okay, to them, it's no big deal. To them, being able to, shoot a bird in the sky or all these other things are much more important to them. The girls get married when they're 12 to 13. They have kids very quickly until they're like 20, 25, and then they look after everybody else. They all sleep together in a communal hut. I'm sure they all, they have the same dramas that we have. It's just different, but they seem to have a good attitude. The penis thing, it's when you've never seen anything like it, and the chief Diddy Moose had the most elaborate because he's the chief, and it was crazy. I don't know how they even walk with those things.
Yeah, I'm showing this photo now, number 11. There's a group of 3 women, and I believe it's a chief holding a baby.
Yep.
So, but when I was looking at this shot, I was like, there's just like obviously no one is self-conscious about showing their breasts or any of that stuff the overhead that we have up here is just a completely different level of humility in terms of the human body. Are they a monogamous kind of culture or? How does that work?
They are. They're kind of monogamous. Family unit is extremely important to them. They all work together and they all understand and know the rules. And, whatever the chief says, and he's the boss man, they all adhere to. And they don't intermarry from one tribe to another tribe unless the chief says, that's okay, you can do that. But, the whole nudity thing is, like in Tahiti and other places on the planet, Nike and all those other guys, do that marketing, so we wear clothes on and on. The advantage is it's nice and warm. It's not cold. But to me, it freaks you out a little bit because you're running through jungles and there's things that bite you and attack you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of these tribe people had cuts and marks and scratches and and blood. And one of them had a gigantic burn mark that he got hit from one of the fires. So, it is what it is.
It is, yeah. It is different. So, yep. So a little bit, and it's back to you and me on the screen here. And so, so we talked a little bit about the stuff that you bring with you, and a little bit about the culture and all that. So logistically, though, when you're on the ground there, when I look at these photos, I'm thinking, where did Peter sleep? What was Peter eating out there? How long was Peter there? Like, yeah. But yeah, tell me about just the day-to-day, day in the life, staying alive stuff.
Yeah, getting there was a pain. I mean, it was total pain. Multiple plane trips. The last plane, and this is a plane, obviously, that was bought from an English-speaking country because it had all English words. The seat had a hole, everything. It totally freaked me out. I've never been on a plane like that, a jet. But it made it there, made it back, fine. I took a lot of granola bars and kind bars and that, not knowing what to get. Mm-hmm. In the town, there was a little restaurant that cooked fresh fish from the river. So we ate there a lot. And just basically took bottled water and very careful what you ate because we didn't want to end up in, having gastro problems. And
and that would be
also
the worst, right?
Getting cut and all the rest of it, and wearing good shoes. I had great shoes on, and there's a lot of pig poo everywhere, everywhere you walk. And after a while, after 2 days, you start to smell really, really bad. But you know what? It doesn't matter because everybody else around you smells bad too. The hotel that we stayed at is a 1-star hotel. It had a bed, had a toilet that you could sit on, and it had a little bucket for a shower thing, and it was fine. I mean, it was really nice and clean, and that was it. The biggest problem that I always end up suffering, and along with the other guys, is after 3-4 days there, you start to get really fatigued, and you get to a point where you go, look, I can't take any more photos. I'm just too tired. I want to sleep in an air-conditioned hotel room and drink some beer. Yeah. I mean, but you just got to keep going. You got to keep going because the rewards at the end is that, I come back and I see some of the images and I just go, I can't believe that I was there. Yeah. But you just got to take, precautions, make sure you take enough medical stuff, make sure you take, the bottled water's available. Just a very quick note. The first day we were there, we're so hot, tired, worn out. We go back to the little town and we go, let's get some beer and drink it. Alcohol is completely banned in this town, completely banned. It's 100,000 people at the bottom of the mountain. And the reason it's banned is because when they start drinking alcohol, the tribes will get into fights with their neighbors and then start cutting heads off and killing each other.
That sounds familiar.
So it's like, oh man, come on.
You can't win for losing. I love it. But you're right. I mean, those kind of situations, it seems like, and I've been in similar situations before where you're just like, I just want this to be over. But the way that I get through them is just to internalize that, this is all temporary. You're going to be gone in a minute and it'll all be a memory.
Yeah. And, we're also always cautious about, equipment failure and so on. And one of my cameras had a little bit of an issue because of the vibration on the plane, whatever. But, you got to have a lot of batteries. You got to have a lot of battery backup. And when you're tired and fatigued, you do make mistakes. You get the f-stop wrong. You do this wrong and that wrong. And then, you have to look at your pictures and say, okay, don't, overthink it and kill yourself. You just go, okay, next day when I go out, I'll take pictures of this and pictures of that. But, they were the nicest, friendliest people to go and see. I mean, and getting back onto the plane, I normally don't drink on planes because it dehydrates you, but I enjoyed the first 5 beers on the plane as soon as I got on.
You had to get your body chemistry back to normal, right?
Exactly.
So I want to jump back and look at a couple more photos. The next one we're going to look at is number 17. It's a black and white of, I think it's the chief standing on a hill or a big rock there. But before we do that, you mentioned power, and I know I believe you're a Sony shooter, right?
Yes, sir.
So there's been, at least with the earlier Sonys, there's been the issue of short battery life with those cameras. Have they fixed that? And if not, what did you do? And if so, what did you do? How did you handle
Yeah.
making sure you didn't run out of juice?
I got the new A7R Mark III, bigger batteries, took 4 spare batteries along, and I'm shooting with the A7R Mark IIs. I have an infrared, a regular, and another battery. Another camera. So I took 11 spare batteries along, charged them at night, and the power goes off at the hotel regularly because it's tough. But shooting we chatted and chatted and chatted, and I said, well, what do you do? And he said, normally I go to the top of the mountain, and he pointed in the distance, and I'll look around and see what the weather's doing and see what's going on, see what the other tribes are doing. And I asked him, I said, would it be okay if you're up there, hanging out up there, looking around, to take some photos of you up there? And he sort of looked at us and said, you know what, you're friends of ours now after 4 days. He said, along. Okay, it took him probably 20 minutes to get there, and it took us 2.5 hours.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
These people these natives, they can climb up and down trees faster than you and I can just walk on a flat ground. But that's what they do. And they're extremely fit. They've got great eyesight. They've got phenomenal teeth. I mean, they look really good. So we did a few shoots up there, took some pictures. There was a rain cloud coming in and all the rest of it. And, it was fun. And that's where he stands and looks around and sees what's going on in his neighborhood. That's his kind of like little lookout place.
Oh, wow. Look at that. And the light is just perfect on this shot, too. I mean, so if he wasn't positioned properly so that the light was hitting him like that, how do you communicate to him, hey, can you turn to the left a little bit so I can get more light on your face?
Nah, there's none of that. You just got to do what you got to do. We just lucked out. The sun was behind me, and there was clouds and storm coming in behind him, and he was just lit. He was just lit beautifully, and that was for maybe 25, 30 minutes. And then the rain came in, and I've never seen so much rain in my life. The drops were probably 1 inch in diameter. Wow. It was so thick, so hard. It rained for 30 minutes and then completely stopped, and then the sun comes out again, and it's just weird.
Well, I mean, you need that to make a nice mixture of all the pig poo that was around, right?
Oh, yeah. And I'm apologizing now to anybody that sat next to me on the plane going back to Jakarta and Singapore and China. I smelled so bad on the plane. I couldn't believe it.
You were that guy, huh? You were that guy.
No, when I got to Hong Kong, I actually bought new clothes because everything was in my bag, and I threw out all the clothes that I was wearing. And it was... Yeah,
hey, but it doesn't matter in the end, right? Because you take a shower, you're good to go. You still have your memory cards, and you're good to, with all the shots.
Exactly.
So let's talk about Peter. Let's talk about the kids that were there. Yep. So this is obviously, we looked at some of the women, we looked at the chief and some of the guys there, but there are children there. I'm gonna bring up this shot. This is number 20. Looks like a young man in profile. Tell me the story of this shot.
This young guy is 10 years old. He's the Sun's chief. His name was Anu. He's a really cool young kid, typical 10-year-old. Everywhere that we went, he would follow us around, and he would, gesture things. And after a while, I'd let him carry some stuff. He could carry the tripods for us and this, that, and the other thing. And he was standing there, and this was inside a hut because it was raining. We were waiting for the rain to stop. And he started posing and this and that, and he's pulling faces and doing weird stuff. And then I got 3 shots of him just standing there looking out the window. And that's a headdress for a warrior that he's wearing on his head. And his profile was was fantastic. Everything came into place. I was shooting my Canon 100, Sony 100 SDF. That's that one with the nice background, and it was sharp. And he was just, a typical 10-year-old, but
that's gorgeous.
Funny.
That's a gorgeous shot. So he was just standing there. This wasn't like, hey, young man, go stand over here and look that way and all that.
No.
This
he was
happened
standing
and you grabbed
out the window at the rain, and the pigs are playing in the rain outside. He's standing there because he wanted to get outside and start doing the reenactment. There's a couple of shots of that where they're showing how they attack the tribes next door. And I'm sitting on the ground, and one of the videos and people running around with spears. And these spears are so sharp. I mean, you have no idea. And all I could think of is crap. If one of these guys trips and falls and stabs me, then I'm done. I'm done. But these guys know exactly what they're doing. I mean, they're not, amateurs. They're professional tribesmen.
Yeah.
But this kid was fantastic. And I took a whole bunch of sugar-free candy because I didn't want to give him really bad sugar candy. And I gave him a whole bunch in the end. And the smile on his face, he was just so, he just couldn't believe it. He was just happy. Nice kid.
That is fantastic. That is a great shot too. That's so cool.
Thank you.
You nabbed it, and that's part of it, right? Being prepared with the right gear and the right skills, and you put yourself in a situation and got the shots, tack sharp all the way in. That's a professional photographer right there, right?
Yeah, and the key is there's a lot of sitting around and waiting. Okay, it's not like you're in there and you're doing shot after shot after shot. You have to sit and wait. And then you have to blend in. And then you just become part of the furniture. You're sort of like sitting there and they're carrying on, doing what they're doing, making fires, cooking food, sharpening their stuff and whatever. And then you just grab the shots. And then I showed him afterwards and he loved it. And I'll end up sending him a print of that via, through our translator, and he'll be stoked. He'll be stoked again.
That is so fantastic. Yeah. Well, hey, the last shot that I want to talk about is this is number 21, and this looks like an older gentleman with a bow and arrow standing next to a giant tree with a beautiful root system. It looks like a portrait as I'm looking at it here. Tell me the story of this shot.
He's the chief of this last village that we saw, and he came out and he's standing there just like that. We rock up, and before we even go inside, the tree's, I don't know, hundreds of years old. They've been there for a long time. He had a little bit of English because he had traveled to the south part of the island and lived there for a little bit. He was 87 years old, right? He looked great. He had his teeth, and he had, you could talk to him and he'd answer the questions. And he wanted us to take a picture of him posing under his favorite tree. He grew up as a kid there, and he is in charge of that whole tribe in their huts around there. And the setting was just perfect. There was good light coming through. It was late in the afternoon, 4:00, and he was really, really cool guy, really cool guy. And I got maybe 4 or 5 shots of him standing there and then sitting there, and yeah, it was good.
Are you planning on sending him a print of that shot?
Yeah. We're sending probably a couple of dozen prints. And one of the other things that we're going to do, and one of my friends, Dr. D, he had some spare phones, and I had some spare phones. We're going to send him some iPhone 6s and 2 or 3 iPhone 4s. We sent to them because now there's a cell tower on top of the hill, and they could actually use a phone. So we're going to donate some phones, and they will go down to the village and plug it in at the general store where there's electricity, and they can charge it there. So probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll send them a whole bunch of phones that they can use.
Oh, no. So now they're going to be on Facebook.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. They'll end up getting Facebook accounts and Instagram and whatever. That'll be the end of those poor guys.
Yeah, you destroyed the entire culture with a
Yeah, well.
We were so happy last year.
Yeah, we're so happy until we found out what the rest of the world doing, and now life is now crap. And yeah, maybe no. I promised I would send them some phones because I said to them, "Look, is there anything that I can do for you guys?" They said, "You know what? If you could send us a telephone or something." And I said, "Okay, I've got some spare iPhones. I'll send you those." They just were like, "Yeah." And the thing that's funny is that these guys, when they start hugging you at the end and they smell like homeless people. It's just funny because that all melts away and you just go, these are warm, wonderful, just sweet people that just are just fun to hang out with.
That is fantastic. What a great adventure, man.
That was good.
Congratulations on all the great shots. They're beautiful. I'm going to put a gallery on the blog post for this interview. So if you're watching this, if the folks are watching this on YouTube, go to the link in the description below and you'll see the gallery of all the shots, or a lot of the shots that Peter did out there. So Peter, what's next for you? What's your next adventure? You said you like to do this like a couple times a year?
Once or twice a year, depending on how a schedule is at work. Depends on weather and stuff. I've got a sort of mediocre trip because, Cuba's mediocre, but we're going to go to Cuba and travel out of the city and take some pictures out in the countryside with a boxer that we know has family members here, and watch him and do some, photojournalist stuff of him training. And probably early next year, we're going to go to an island in Indonesia called Sumba, Sumba, which has got some of the most insane trees that it looks like they're on Mars. I mean, it's the weirdest thing, and shoot those in infrared. But anything else in between can happen. A couple of weeks ago, when the volcano started going off, Troy Miller and I went down to Kona. We were too early or too late. We couldn't get near any of the lava because the National Guard was there, and our buddy Don Hertzler, he was there, and now it's getting worse and worse. So, but if something comes up and we go, that would be great to do, we should plan it, then something different.
Yeah. Love it. Well, cool. Well, so where should folks go to check out some of your previous adventures and this adventure and the upcoming adventures and all that?
PAC Artists, PAC artists.com is a website that Troy Miller and I have, and we have a lot of artists on there. Levo Imagery, Levo Imagery, IMAGRY, imagery.com. That's some stuff there. The biggest problem that I have is I'm so busy doing everything else. I'm kind of slack when it comes to putting pictures up of latest places that I've been. But I promise that I'll try and get better and put things up. But
love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, sir, for coming on. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. It's been both educational and depressing at the same time because I want to go.
No. Okay, so my promise to you is that I'll include you in on if the next trip's on, you can come along because you're way fitter than me. You have a military background, and you'd be perfect to help me carry my equipment, man. You'd be.
Hey, I'll sign up to be a pack mule if it ends in shots like I've seen from you. So,
No. And look, and again, the people there loved, having some respect. They're all Christians, and anybody that came and that wasn't a local, they just absolutely just was in awe and follow you around and just had a great time. You would fit right in. Love it.
All right, Peter Levshin, thank you for your time today, and we'll see you soon, man. I can't wait to hop on a plane with you and start an Indiana Jones adventure.
Cool, we'll do it. Thanks, mate.
All right, take care.
This is TWIP.